wave intensified. Now, experts say India is now recording more intense, frequent heat waves that are also longer in duration. Well, so what is the way forward? Now, soldiers passed off killed civilians as rebels. More than 6,400 civilians were killed by the Colombian military and passed off as enemy combatants. Yeah, we'll be looking into that. Israel Prime Minister to pay for families' food after criticism. Naftali Bennett will now cover the 7,400 monthly bill, which he insists was within the rules. It is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And Bitcoin has become official currency in Central African Republic. So these are some of the stories making the rounds in the world today. Is 3 minutes to the top of the hour. We'll be crossing over for me to bring you some music before we continue with the show. But Parliament's culture can create toxic mix. That's what the minister is saying. The Defense Secretary says late hours and drinking are a problem as female MPs complain of sexism. Exactly what I said earlier. A man has been in court charged with missing woman's murder. Andrew Befield is charged with the murder of Katie Kenya, who has not been seen since the 22nd of April. All right then, this and a lot more going to be coming your way. Don't you go away. Stay tuned. Teacher strike over LGBT artists cancelled talk and a lot more coming your way. Stay tuned. Enjoy this music uninterrupted now.
Top dog.
For me,
girl, BB Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business. The show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business, but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Reggae dancehall taking over. Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancehall taking over. Yo, what's up, people? This is a boy Raskin Bobo One. Tune in every day, every night at the Starr Radio UK with the big man them Archie. When I say Arta, you say fire.
Welcome back to the program. It is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to 5 minutes past the top of the hour. We should be having Mr. Olayomi Koiki joining us any moment from now. But until then, let's quickly just have a look at some of the other stories that is making the rounds from the Nigerian front. He will be touching on some of them. My presidential ambition driven by credible leadership, says APC presidential hopeful, is one of the stories. I'm going to bring you more details about who said that. Nasarawa PDP to disqualify aspirants with questionable credentials. Interesting. Who set the bar and what are the credentials? If I think that somebody is going to be turning my flesh, I add whatever credentials or disqualification criteria there, and I decide you are disqualified because of that credential. Is it people who have joined IS before, or is it people who have affiliation or have been supporting or been praising terrorism or attacks that is going on, or separatists or what? So we'll be looking into all those stories in a moment. How APC guideline puts Amechi, Ngige, Malami, others in a tight corner. Now let me bring you more of that whilst we wait for Mr. Olayomi Koiki. Okay. Just bear with me. I was trying to get some story, but it seemed to have eluded me. Now, Nasarawa State Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Honorable Francis Orugu, has appealed to all aspirants seeking for elective position in the party ahead of the 2023 to ensure that they present genuine credentials to avoid litigation and disqualification. Now, what does he mean by that? Now, he gave the warning while addressing aspirants seeking for various elective seats ranging from governorship, Senate, House of Representatives, and State House of Assembly seats shortly before the commencement of screening exercise. Now, Orugu disclosed that the party will be mild in other deficiencies of aspirants and will be tough on issues of certificate forgery. Now, according to him, we can't afford to lose a seat after election, allowing an aspirant for general election. Election is like an exercise in futility. Now, while urging all those vying for elected positions to fulfill their righteousness, especially in ensuring the payment of all dues, saying all the charges will be used for the service of members of the 18-man screening committee. We have 18 persons in the screening committee, and the party in the state will take their responsibility from accommodation, feeding, and allowances, Orugu said. Now, Orugu declared that the party needed nothing less than 9 million naira to pay for hotel and feeding of the screening committee members, which will be almost a 1 month's assignment. Well, there's going to be interesting times in Nigeria. The question is, as some are alluding that, there's going to be election, others are saying, no way from hell that there's going to be any election in Nigeria. But what do you think? Maybe you have a different thought of about the whole thing. I want to know what you think about that. Okay. I think we have Mr. Olayomi Koiki joining in now. So whilst we wait for him to be settled, and then we pick him up. As I pick him up, I'm not going to pick him up with a car, but pick his feet live. Let me still continue to bring you one other story from that front. Now, my presidential ambition driven by credible leadership, says APC presidential hopeful. So who are we talking about here? Presidential aspirants on the platform of All Progressive Congress, APC Dr. Ibrahim Dauda, has said he decided to vie for president of Nigeria to provide credible leadership for the country. Now, Dauda, who is one of the youngest aspirants in the race for APC presidential tickets, made this known when he presented his policy document titled, let me put it that way. That's how to put it, but no. Titled, it's supposed to be titled, Nigeria First to Leadership in Abuja yesterday. He said his first priority is to redirect the country onto the path of credible leadership. Well, we'll be bringing you more on that front once we have him on. But now I can tell you shortly, I've got the one and only, yes, Mr. Olayomi Koiki, who has joined us. And let me say massive good morning to you, Yomi.
Well, a very good morning to you, Mr. Archie. Good morning to all our listeners and viewers from around the globe. And we welcome you to Starr Radio UK. It is the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. And it is the 28th day of April 2022. Just coming up to about 11 minutes past the hour. And I'm going to slightly come back again to you in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Yes. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing very well, and it's good to be back again on a very beautiful Thursday morning after a very beautiful program yesterday on Niger Voices, and I'm doing very well. The family are doing very well. But yeah, and back in Nigeria, where a lot is happening as usual. But we will be giving all the news and the headlines as we have them, this morning again to all our listeners that are geared up and ready for the morning show, and most important, the headlines and the news coming out of Nigeria this morning.
Well, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki for you. But, as my norm is, now, before we move on to the news that is making the rounds, let's look at what was discussed yesterday on the Niger Voices, and the fact that people were calling in. I think we're going to be extending that program to 8:30. So instead of finishing at 8 o'clock, so that we can give people the ample time. I saw that lots of people were trying to call in, but we couldn't go beyond that because we've not told. So, henceforth, I think we'll do up to 8:30 for the sake, because listeners, we are doing the program just to make sure that you are enjoying it. So that is a good one. So Yomi, now what was discussed yesterday in a nutshell? Yeah.
Well, just to summarize, if you're not aware, we have a program called Niger Voices that have been going on air, for almost 4.5 years or thereabout. This comes up every Wednesday, between 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. That the production might probably be increased with another half an hour, especially because, we now have a lot to discuss in Nigeria. And like I was saying yesterday, it was just about 289 days. It has actually dropped down by a day today, which is now 288 days before 2023. Yesterday was all again about, the conversation where we had to play 18 minutes of the audio from the leader of the social cultural group Afenifere. There were also the Ohanese that had this conversation in Abuja. The focus point was, will the northern part of Nigeria ever allow the southeast or the southwest to hold on to power? I was able to pick up so many points from what he said yesterday, which was why we had a lot of caller that called in as well. Part of what he said is, I am 94 years old. That means I might go anytime. The second point was, Nigerians, where we should be, and not to deceive ourselves. He talked about the historical subject, has been said enough in terms of the history of Nigeria. Then he also said they don't want the Southeast. Who is it that doesn't want the Southeast to have, the time for being the president of the country, even though we have a lot of them that are also going to be contesting? These are the Northerners, according to the leader of the Afenifere. Northerners don't want to leave power. He said this categorically, and he said, that the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, was playing the minds of people like the leader of the APC, national leader of the APC, Asiwaju Tinubu, that is currently in Saudi Arabia. I saw Atiku has just arrived. It looks like some of them are now preparing for this prayer ground by going there and plead to the God, to allow them. He also accused Jonathan of saying that he will be used because Jonathan has had his time. He also said it is not by force if we should still want to be in Nigeria. He also said we are now at the crossroad. The North doesn't want to leave power. He talked about the 1954 Constitution, that also the backward area, it was actually referring to the northern part of Nigeria. He talked about the autonomy, that at some point when we have the eastern region, we have the southeastern northern embassy here in United Kingdom, and the current embassy at the Nigerian High Commission at number 9 Otumbaland is currently being owned by the western region that has now been converted to the current Federal Republic of Nigeria that we have. And the last point is, the problem of Nigeria is Buhari. This was all you missed, and I hope you won't miss that when we come again next week, Wednesday, for more focus on Nigeria, self-determination, restructure, election, 288 days. Be rest assured that Starr Radio UK will be on ground and outside to give you all the news and headline coming out of Nigeria. And I'll be coming back again now to you in the studio, but I cannot tell you that the court proceeding for the 1999 Constitution head on straight in Ado-Ekiti today, and that case has now been adjourned again to 11th of May. Starr Radio UK, your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. If you're sending money home to your loved ones, especially at this very difficult time of the crunch economy, likewise in Ghana, but most important in Nigeria, why not try Send Waves? If you're doing it for the first time, use the code S for Star, R for Radio. All the news and headline can be found on our website, www.starradiouk.com. I'll come back now again to you in the studio.
Yes, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki Kojo, bringing you updates from Nigeria. That was just a summary of what took place yesterday on the Niger Voice. It comes your way every weekday, every Wednesday, my apologies, every Wednesday from 18 hours to normally from 18 to 20 hours, but now we are doing from 18 to 30 hours so that the callers can be able to call in and you can share your take as long as you want. Okay, now let's move on to the stories that is making the rounds today that we have so far. Now, Electoral Commission, we're talking about 288 days for the general election to take place. We have some people who have the view that the election will not take place. We have others who are thinking that yes, the election will take place. We have all the aspirants running helter-skelter, trying to put their house in order to do it. But we have in some other states some electoral officers or commissioners resigning. Can you give us a bit detail about that?
Well, that is the norm, according to the Constitution that is also being challenged, with so many lot of Nigerians. But that Constitution is still going to be used, according to the current dispensers that we have at the moment. So you're quite right. Numbers of people must have to resign for them to contest, and that is not just happening in Sokoto State, where a lot of people have now resigned. It is also happening, within, the civil servant that probably might have, or commissioner rather, that might have interest, in this current, that means, commissioner working whether from the state level or the federal level. What we have is at least 13 commissioners have resigned their appointment in Sokoto State ahead of the primary elections in accordance with the Electoral Act, bringing the total number of commissioners that have resigned in order to contest election to over 60 across the 36 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Interesting.
So their resignation is in line with they now putting their nominations in. Their hats into the ring for the contest, right?
Well, you're quite right. The remaining commissioners, are those Ito Manning, Minister of Finance, Environment, Youth and Sport, Land and Housing, as well as Career and Security. Other commissioners who resign are those of Commerce, Work, Water, Resources, Solid Minerals, and Religious Affairs. More of those who resign include the Secretary to the State Government, Malam Sahidu Umar, and the Chief of Staff. It looks like they also have an eye to the big office, if the chief of staff and the secretary to the state government says they also think they might turn things around in Sokoto State. Sokoto is not the only state where commissioners have resigned. In KANU State, no fewer than 10 commissioners have resigned, while in Delta State, at least 9 have stepped down. The case in the same in Kwara State, where no fewer than 7 commissioners have stepped aside, while in Bayelsa State, at least 5 have resigned. In Lagos State, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu recently asked members of his cabinet seeking to run to office must now resign. But it looks like the one from the presidency have not done the needful, but they still have a bit of time because they must resign before the primaries of the current, according to the Constitution. The one of interest that I've also put his head to say, I think I can change things around, is the Minister for Education that can afford 100 million naira APC presidential fund while ASU is still on strike, according to the mouthpiece at real_Amaka on Twitter.
Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, in our North London studios. Mr. Olayomi Koiki, in the South studios here. I am Archie, and we are bringing you updates from Nigeria. But continue to share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones wherever you find yourself. Okay, now moving on to some of the other stories making the rounds as well. Now, we know that the border was shut. Due to the president saying that they're trying to protect the homegrown rice to see to that market flourishes. Now, which of the borders have been opened so far? Because it happens that the clearing agents are now upset about government opening some borders. What is that about?
For almost 2 years, Nigerians had to suffer, the closure of the border between the southwest and some other part of the country. But it seems that now has become something of the past. But stakeholders have now expressed mixed reactions over the reopening of 4 land borders almost 30 months after the closure on October 15, 2019 by the federal government, purportedly to crush smuggling of goods into the country. But the argument is, what has then happened? Has that changed? As the smuggling of goods now become thing of the past, that the government have decided to open the border, that we know, or is it just that the election that is getting closer? And according to one of our comments today on our transmission says, don't mind Nigerian politicians, let them go to Jerusalem or Saudi Arabia. Their evils are chasing them about. God is not mocked. That is coming from Mrs. Comfort that is listening to us here from London. Again, this expression also means that after 30 months, some industry stakeholders gave kudos to the government for reopening. Others say the closing in the first place was misplaced, illegal, and did not achieve anything positive. Which of these borders has now been opened? The federal government last week approved the reopening of Idiroko border, that is as the most closest to the southwest of Nigeria, which is the Yoruba side, to the Benin, and likewise the Jibaya, Kamba, and Ikom local and the Ikom land border. Again, all these borders were closed after the government believed it was not worth it. Recall that after much plea in December 2020, reopening 4 out of the 8 major land border it had shut in 2019. Seme, Ilala, Magatari and Mufan under phase reopening arrangement. The Nigerian Customs Service, NSA, in a circular that was signed by the Deputy Controller General, Enforcement and Inspection, retitled 4 additional Nigerian border posts, directed the immediate reopening of the 4 other land borders. So Nigerians can now move freely among this border, but the question is, what did it achieve in the 30 months of closure?
Well, 30 months of closure, but it doesn't mean that now people are allowed to bring like rice in, or the border is open so any transaction can take place, or still the border is opening but you cannot bring the rice in.
Well, the question is, it's not just the rice that we're talking here. I was actually listening to, a video that was made about some weeks ago even those that were purchasing items from Nigeria and taking it back for their own personal use, whether they were running a business like our mothers that were running hairdressing, were literally not allowed to take anything to go through. And the question is, rice will still not be allowed to be bring in, but at least you don't have to go through the back end. You probably just go through the normal route, then you can get to wherever you want to go through those borders, because there's a lot of movement, but those movement was short for 30 months. But like we say, what did it achieve? Because we know that there was still influx of terrorists that were still coming through most of this borderline. I think about a couple of weeks ago, we saw, where terrorists were also, stopped from the Benin government, in that part of the country. Likewise, the ones that were not closed have allowed jihadis, ISWAP, Boko Haram to influx through the country. And I was actually listening to this morning, and maybe we should just hear, what he has to say. Good morning to those that are watching us as this, all the way in Florida, and on our listeners. I picked this up, this morning, where we know, according to the DSS, have now said we must be security conscious because there will be an attack in the country. But this is what we can say from this interview that was granted to a former DSS assistant director that spoke in New York in one of the broadcasts that we picked up.
He stated this in a statement where he explains that the objective is to launch further attacks on critical infrastructure and other public places frequently visited. He also warned managers and owners of worship and relaxation centers to be cautious and implement basic security measures to deter the threat.
Interesting.
Now, to make sense of all of this, let's speak with former DSS Assistant Director Dennis Amakri, who joins me via Zoom from New York. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. There's a lot about the DSS. What do you make of it coming out this time?
Well, I think it's a thank you very much for having me. I think it's a very timely intelligence for the public to use, and then get themselves prepared for the kind of threat that we are facing today in society.
And from experience, how seriously would you say Nigerians take a lot of this nature?
This is a very serious threat, and I don't think we should take it jokingly, because the DSS has come up with so many different kinds of alerts, and the alerts have come true. And of course, to prevent it depends on how we deal with it, because now it has allowed people to be very careful. This is the Salah period, the festive period, and then take care of their churches and mosques, and then of course relaxation spots. And this is the time to wake up and start doing those things.
Well, we're going to leave it there. And again, the question is, 30 months of the closure of the border, the North was literally left open to allow influx of unknown gunmen, terrorists, invading the territory of different parts of the country. Star Radio UK, 28th of April, 2022, 28 minutes past 11. I come back again to you in the studio.
Yes, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki bring you up just from Nigeria. But a quick one on the border closure and the clearing agents. Now, so the clearing agents taking the government to court. What are they expecting? Because if you say they are going, eventually taking them to the cleaners, are they looking for compensation? Or do they think that now, because of the border opening, it has caused brought about too much work, or it's now affecting them, impacting them negatively? What do they want there?
Well, a lot of people take the government to court. Whether there is a outcome of it is something. Remember, Chief Sunday IGBOHO took the government to court and he won at Ibadan after the invasion and almost assassination attempt on his life in the home after the 1st of July 2021. 2 people were killed, as we speak right now. Those 2 bodies have not yet been recovered from the federal government. Yes, there was a case that was won of 20 billion naira has to be paid to him. The government has actually also, said that they will appeal that. But the question is, would it make any impact? Yes, according to individuals or groups of people, you can take the government to the court. But I'm not sure this government is a government that is listening. That was part of what Pa Ayo Adebanjo said, the leader of the social cultural group Afenifere, that literally said that why would you want to kidnap somebody like NNAMDI KANU when even Irish that has been part of the Great Britain since 1707, because I noted that down, still wants to leave and become their own, and they can still have a roundtable conversation with the current leader, Boris Johnson. So he sees no reason why Buhari cannot sit down with people like, that are demanding the self-determination, like NNAMDI KANU and the Yoruba, Professor Banji Akintoye and Chief Sunday Adeyemo, that have been campaigning for a peaceful dissolution of Nigeria.
Well, listeners, a bit of information there for you. Let me say good morning to Anthony Adedeji and Amaya Jigene. I hope you are doing very, very well as well. Thank you very much for your support all the time. Okay, listeners, it's now gone exactly at 11:30, and I will go back to Yomi for some of the other stories making the rounds. Over to you, Yomi.
Well, let's go straight back to to some of those headlines, as you said, and we'd like to appreciate those of you that have joined us so far on the Thursday edition of the morning show. Subsidy hit 1.35 trillion in 4 months. NNPC to deduct 672 billion naira is coming from the headline. Senate prohibit ransom payment. Adoptees family seek talks with the bandit. This again is a question where who goes after the terrorists, or if somebody is kidnapped. I picked up a news that was sent to me this morning, and I might be able to share, just the face of these young, Nigerian, a copper, but we can now say, may her soul rest in peace. This actually happened at the federal capital in Abuja. As at the 14th of April, that's a picture right there. She was a missing person, but I can now tell us that she's been found, but found dead. But this is what comes out, to the message that came with it. Stephanie, a fellow graduate of Makodian, who graduated from microbiology and is undergoing an NYSC, which is the Nigerian Youth, Copper in the FCT, got missing earlier this month. We have been posting our pictures everywhere on the media, pleading for information for her whereabouts. Today, her body was discovered. She was murdered with her NYSA uniform on her. Her private parts are all removed as display here, which we cannot show because they're too graphic. This is completely uncalled for. Nigeria has failed us. Today is her. Tomorrow it might be you or me. Nobody is safe in this country. May God help us all. RIP fellow. Me, Abuja, and Nigeria as a country hot now. Who and where you visit, very important. My schoolmate is gone for no reason. Richard Eni, no more now. That is the message that was coming, and we continue to tell people to become very, very vigilant because the country is going through quite a lot as we speak right now. Let's come back again to some of the other headline as we have it as well. The headline we have here, a Nigerian businessman that was jailed for fraud in the U.S. has now picked up his own nomination form and want to contest under the PDP. Well, also, the current governor of Ogun State is also someone of interest when it comes to a fraud case on him in 1986, while he was also living in United States of America. This is what he comes up with the headline, that came up yesterday on him as well. I was arrested for fraud in the United States of America, but APC cannot disqualify me in 2023. These are meant to be leaders. These are meant to be those, that is leading currently because it's the current governor. But also, the question is, who are those legal team that continue to defend them, even though, according to the Constitution, says after 10 years of a crime, you can still come back. Mr. Abiodun, with a jail number 8600B9436, had filed an application for redemption of his criminal record in Miami-Dade, Florida, according to this headline. What we do know, embattled Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State says his arrest in United States over credit card fraud and forgery in 1986 is not a sufficient ground for his disqualification by the All Progressive Congress. I guess he's probably going to want to contest for the second term. Mr. Abiodun said APC as a political party lacked the power to disqualify him, stressing that only a counterpart court of law could do so at the statute of limitation for such matter not passed. As an aspirant or candidate will only be disqualified by court if the false information it gives related to constitutional requirement of legibility. APC is not a court of law. Accordingly, it cannot disqualify our client. The governor's lawyer wrote, Abdullahi Adamu, APC chairman, citing section 29(6) of the Electoral Act 2022, but representing by Afe Babalola and co. Remember, the same Afe Babalola, is one person that was also talking about the 1999 Constitution and the country must go into what we call an interim government. He's currently representing Dapo Abiodun. The governor legal team further argued that the governor probable arrest was not conviction and hence was not answerable to the law that applied to criminals. Starr Radio UK. Even if he was convicted in 1986, the Governor Legal Counsel asserted the Nigerian Constitution only disqualified ex-felon from contesting political office if their sentence was less than 10 years before the election. Also, according to Mr. Olatunji officer, based on what we said earlier, during the Nigerian security says, to be honest, Nigerian security intelligence is not up to the scratch. Government should embark on reform and training of personnel. A very good morning to Mr. Adeosun, also watching us from Abeokuta, and we continue to say to those that are now making their way from Ado-Ekiti, where the 1999 Constitution has started with the court case from Ilanomo-Odua. We'll be telling you more on that later on. I'll come back to you now in the studio.
Yes, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki bringing you updates from Nigeria. And to all of you who have joined us, those from Nigeria, those of you listening to us on the African continent, especially, I know it costs you an arm and a leg to listen to us or watch us, and we greatly, greatly appreciate that. But Yomi, a quick one on the should I call them ex-cons? I don't want to call them ex-cons, but if somebody is arrested, but was not charged or was not, found guilty, okay, in a court, I don't think that they should be held responsible, or because of that they should be written off. They should be given a chance to virtually do whatever, unless, of course, like the fraud, they were sentenced, they were found guilty and sentenced. Then, if you've been involved in something like that, I'm not sure that when you come to have the public purse, you'll be doing justice to it. What do you think?
Well, you're quite right, and and just as even the Constitution says there, that I just said, under the Constitution 29, citing the section 29(6) of the Electoral Act 2022, that the person can still contest as long as the crime has been done over the last 10 years. But the argument is, these was put together. Even in the event assumed, but considering that our client was even convicted in 1986, according to the legal team, it will still not be affected or caught up by Section 1821E of the CFRN, because the CFRN requires that the conviction which should be disqualified person from position of governor must have occurred 10 years before. But what we do know is this was in response to a petition that was submitted by some APC member, Ayodele Oludiran, on behalf of Oluwatobi Shofela of Oludiran, of Oluwatobi Shofela of Ogun, BBRA Unit Forum, who warned that the party might lose the governorship seat in Ogun State if Dapo Abiodun, with his criminal history, is consigned from the INEC. But we do also know that one of his what we could say, that was working with him at some point, is currently being picked up for a fraud case. I'm talking about the same governor. He was, frauding some almost to the tune of $650 million. Is currently now being held in America, but is now being taken off from his position in Ogun State. Wow.
Listeners, it's Starr Radio UK. A bit of clarity there for you. Okay, let's go back to Yomi for some of the other stories. Over to you, Yomi.
Well, I'm just going to go straight into, the social media because of the time constraint again this morning. But once again, it is the Thursday edition as we continue to look into all the news and the headlines coming out of Nigeria. Also, Mrs. Comfort says, Baba Afe Babalola is far from the truth. I wonder how these elderly people think or speak. Also, Olatunji officer says, what do you expect of Nigeria? Breakdown in law and order and the three arms of government, executive, judiciary, legislature is not functioning very well. Mrs. Comfort also said DSS are terrorists or non-government are attacking people in the middle of the night in their homes, now alerting people about attack. Nigeria is a scam. Sikiru, is saying all the way Yoruba nation. Let's go back to some of those headlines as we have it presently. Yesterday, two of our Yoruba self-determination that were making their way to Ado-Ekiti, as we speak right now, are still currently being held in one of the police stations, the local police station inside, Abule-Egba. It's still a very sketchy one, but all this happened at about 5 p.m. yesterday, but we will be giving more update on that probably maybe tomorrow. But what we do know is they were traveling to Ado-Ekiti while, there was, as usual, the police harassing someone. They intervened into that situation and they drove on with their, in continuation. But to their surprise, the officer on the bike ran after them. And what we can now say is, while they were stopped during the traffic, there was some kind of what we can call, a damage to their vehicle that they were driving to Ado-Ekiti. Both front and the back windscreen were broken. People wanted to attack the police officer. They stopped them and they allowed that officer to be taken to the police station. But they've now changed the story at this, what we can call, some kind of, a situation that has already happened in the past and is still happening. But as we speak right yesterday, they had to sleep in the canter, but we're still monitoring the situation, but we'll be giving more headline and update on that maybe tomorrow when we have it. So I'm going to go straight, like I said, to the social media and quickly look at some of the headlines. KANU at MAZI KANU, the UK should be guided Nigeria on how to hold hashtag referendum on hashtag Biafra independent, because any decision concerning Biafra and self-determination does not rest with Buhari and the government. It is a matter for the Biafran people alone. Silent on Kanu's case can't stop NNAMDI Kanu what have started. Again, we go back into some of the other headline as well. Neferati, Peter Obi was the youngest chairman of the Fidelity Bank. He got his mandate back from Ngige, became the best governor of his state, one of the best governors in Nigeria. He retired back to his private business, didn't fancy the state, and never lobbied for any federal government job. As we know, Peter Obi also wants to become, the president come 2023. I'm going to look at some of the other headline as well. I am Umar Ojiofonia. Unstoppable people. April 4th, atrocity in Biafra land is committed, according to him right there. So I'm going to take one more and then come back again to you in the studio. Nigeria is a forced marriage that can no longer endure. And with a Nigerian flag with shovels and all kind on side, all broken flag, but it looks like they're putting a needle and thread to see if they can thread it back together. As we do know, like I said, 288 days from today, are we going to see a lot happening, or are we going to see a new country that will start emerging as well? And just 52 minutes ago, Ilana UK, one of the chapter of Ilana Modua, the Nigerian constitution is null and void. Section 14.2 declares sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, but they were excluded from participating in drafting or rectifying the constitution. It was the exclusive handwork of a military dictator. Lawsuit coming soon.
Well, listeners, it's all Starr Radio UK. Now, before we run up the update, the constitutional case that was taking place was supposed to take place in Ekiti today. You did say earlier on that it's been adjourned. Can you give us a bit of detail on that, and then before we run up, sir?
Well, yes, the court case all happened very fast, inside Ado-Ekiti, where it all occurred, just some almost, we probably say about an hour to 2 hours, but quite a lot of people traveled from almost every part to be part of that particular, court case. And let's hear from one or two people that were interviewed, if we can get a soundtrack quickly before we go. This is what they have to say. Well, I know the audio is a bit poor, but we might get it ready tomorrow properly. But what we can say is there is now a proceeding The court case has been, like I said, adjourned. There was no representative from the federal government or INEC, but the court case has now been moved to the 11th of May next month.
But what was the reason for adjourning the case? Is it because the federal government or the INEC were not represented? That's why they adjourned it.
Well, it's not just that alone. We also believe that it is a motion that is about to kickstart. So the case itself hasn't started officially, but since even those that have been brought, the federal government and INEC not being there would definitely not allow a court motion, to kickstart. So that is probably the reason why they have to, move it to the 11th of May. I'm sure maybe we might have maybe one of the legal team that might probably join us tomorrow. I'll try and see if I can get one person that can speak to us and give us a clarity of what happened should the federal government refuse not to turn up to the court, and what happened should they come to the court, and what will be the outcome. I know the legal team spoke, but because it's a long video and we haven't got that ready, for this morning section. But like I said, tomorrow we would have that in details, but for those that are listening to us from Nigeria, if you go on our timeline, you'll be able to watch that. Let's see, just about, maybe I can get that 1 minute.
Maybe the one of the legal team.
I don't know where you can hear it properly.
It's low, but we can. Yeah, go on.
Where there is is that since the people did not gather, the people of Nigeria did not gather in any way to agree on any form of the constitution, and the constitution now goes ahead in its preamble to say we the people, as the constitution not lie against itself. And if the court comes to the constitution that the constitution lies against itself, it means anything built on it cannot stand. That is why we are here. And the people that are behind this case are the NNAMDI, who are seeking self-determination. And it is their right to seek self-determination. But instead of going to the street, like the way it is being done in the southeast, the NNAMDI, who are self-determination group, have decided to come before this court in a civilized manner to ask the court to determine whether under the 1999 Constitution it is desirable for any election to be held anywhere in Yoruba land. And we want to start with the Osun and Ekiti election. That is why we are here. But the applicants are here. The applicants are here. Yes, we serve them. That is the Attorney General of the Federation, and I know they are not here. But the court has granted another adjournment for 11th of May and gave us order that we should start them hearing notice. So if they are not here on the 11th of May, we will proceed.
Well, you heard him there. The Attorney General of the Federation and the INEC were all served. They've been told to serve them again. And if they do not turn up, they will then proceed according to one of the legal team representing Ilana Omodua.
Okay, listeners, we'll be bringing you more on that. Like Olayomi said, we'll try to see whether we can get any of the representatives from the Omodua group to see whether they can, try a bit of clarity on the whole case, and as to whether they have confidence in the judicial system there. Okay, now before we go, there was this story that you posted, and then I thought, no, we need to know, because, if the government seat, the seat of government, or the party, the ruling party itself, cannot actually protect their own money, so that somebody is managing to rob them of 34 million naira at the headquarters.
Which is what, that's about $75 million.
$75 million, okay? So 75 million or $7.5 million. Okay.
75, not 7.5.
$75 million. Interesting. Now, so what has happened? Can you give us a bit of what has happened there, and then we can run our place?
Well, all this was happening at the headquarters of the APC. That probably, just as any other buildings, money do get missing and people do steal from buildings depending on what you're stealing. But from what we are told, according to the news that came out yesterday, APC $75 million got missing inside the headquarters of the APC, and that means a lot of people we'll be asking what was the money for? Could it be part of the money that they've been putting together, for these election? Because most of them will be paying about $100 million, for their nomination form. But as we know, like I said, that starch of money got missing. We were told that the money probably dropped, and then somebody must have probably stepped on it, realized his money, and walk away with that particular money. And that is about it. This news filtered through just yesterday, and again, a lot of Nigerians will be asking questions, questions and questions, just like you said, if they can't manage what is happening in their headquarters, they can't manage the economy, security, welfare, education, then should they be given another chance in 288 days, or should the country itself be reviewed according to Ayodebanjo that says Buhari is the problem of Nigeria?
Well, is Buhari the problem of Nigeria? Should Nigeria have the 2023 elections? Should the constitution be reformed? Can it be? Looking at the Senate and the House of Representatives, where they have majority people from the northern part of the country who don't want to ascribe to that. What do you think? Well, continue to listen to us, because we'll be bringing you more on that front tomorrow once we have Mr. Olayomi Koiki on. But don't worry at all, though we finish with the update from Nigeria. If you want to post your comments, feel free, do so. Or if you want to call in even to add your voice to it, I promise you I'm going to read that. Yomi, let me say thank you very much for another wonderful update.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you to those that are also listening to us in Manchester, Oba Asho Neolong, Mr. Kunle Shita, and the rest of that have joined us this morning from different parts of the globe, all the way to Thailand, Malaysia, Dubai, and most especially safe journey to those that are making their way back now from Ekiti State to their various states. And like I said, the two Yoruba individuals that were picked up yesterday, I'll be giving an update on that when we come again tomorrow morning at exactly 11 o'clock. On that note, stay tuned with Starr Radio UK, where Archie will take you through the rest of the segment of the program. From me here, I say good morning and bye for now.
Bye-bye, sir. Okay, listeners, that has been Mr. Olayomi Koiki bringing you updates from Nigeria. Now let's enjoy this tune while we take a sip of some water. It says what? Which way, Nigeria? Enjoy.
Nigeria, which way, Nigeria? Way to go. I love my fatherland. Oh yeah. I want to know. Yes, I want to know which way Nigeria is heading to. Which way Nigeria? Which way to go? Which way to go? I love my fatherland. Oh yeah. I want to know. I want to know which way Nigeria.
This is Starr Radio UK.
The best radio show.
gbogbo ọ̀rọ̀ yìí bákan náà àgbọ̀ wọn gbogbo àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àkàrò àwọn sísà àkàrò ní ìṣẹ́fẹ̀ẹ́sẹ̀ wọn bá nílẹ̀ Yorùbá lásán tó tẹ́lẹ̀ gbogbo àwọn Yorùbá oníṣẹ́ nìkan kọ́ parí ìlú òṣìṣẹ́ kí lóò fẹ́ lọ́wọ́ òṣìṣẹ́ wa ó fi wá jẹ́ káwọn ọmọ wọn kan wípé wọ́n tàbí wọ́n ká jára kájí àwọn bàbá wa wọ́n fẹ́ fi ẹ̀bà wọ́n fi bí kọ́kọ́ lójú fún wa wọ́n fi ẹ̀bà wọ́n fi bí kọ́kọ́ lójú fún wa tí ó lè kó jẹ́ ọlọ́run tó gbóná ti gbóná Yorùbá ọ̀rọ̀ pọ̀ ìsàkùkọ̀ àti ìṣòdúpẹ́ láti wà ìdúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ni àti ìdúpẹ́ ṣe